new chapter for TNT. We're red, ready, and responsible. Vote PNM. Great is the PNM.
Ball is it in your hand. PNM is the plan. Ready, hold it steady. PNM, we are one.
You know, there really is no better looking color than the color red. Citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, I could not do anything else but sit there tonight with a serious sense of pride, a serious sense of belonging, a serious sense of purpose, a serious sense of hope, and a serious sense that the People's National Movement continues to produce the best quality candidates on offer in Trinidad and Tobago. You saw my colleagues tonight, and allow me to start by recognizing the General Secretary of the People's National Movement, our next MP for La Joqueta Palparo, Foster Cummings. Our Deputy Political Leader, Rohan Sinanan, our Minister of Trade and Industry, the Honorable Paula Gopi Schoon, our Minister in the Office of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs, and the next Member of Parliament for St. Augustine, Ranuka Sagram Singh Suklal. To all of the members of the party, Irene Hines, Indar, all of the members who make us a success. To our matriarch, Auntie Joan, to all of the quality candidates, I thank you, not only as the chairman of the PNM, not only as the Prime Minister, but I thank you as a truly grateful citizen to see quality young people come forward again and join the 41 of us to ensure that every constituency in Trinidad and Tobago has the opportunity for proper representation. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, once again, my colleagues and I join you here tonight. And we have some very serious messages and conversation that needs to take place in the time that we have. We have been discussing as a young team with some experienced members that we understand that the citizens, the civic-minded, the right-thinking citizens, the citizens who are interested in a good Trinidad and Tobago have concerns. So we understand that. And we understand that there's some level of worry about the future of Trinidad and Tobago. And I want to assure you here tonight that this government and its members and this party and its leadership understand your concern, because we share some concerns as well. You see, the decision that has to be taken by every citizen who can exercise a vote on the 28th of April is a very serious one. And I know elections, memorial, and every election, people say this is the most important election. But you need only look at what is taking place in the world today and the level of turmoil that is taking place in the world today that is not confined to Trinidad and Tobago alone. And every sober citizen needs to give that consideration. Every citizen, when you look at your children, you look at your parents, you look at your children, you look at your grandchildren, you look at your colleagues, anyone who has any sense of care in their heart has to be concerned about what this world is facing today, because it is unprecedented times. You are seeing what is taking place. You're seeing, for example, in Canada and in Mexico, how they have to pivot, how they have to maneuver, how their economies. You're seeing stock markets crash. You're seeing prices rise. These are the realities. And the first thing you need to consider when you're listening, because what we have come here to do is to ask the population to make a choice. We in the PNM take nothing for granted. But one thing we know in the PNM is that we have sensible people in our population. We have people who will listen to nonsense and who will listen to sense and sensibility. So when you are considering how to make that decision, and you're seeing what is going on in the world today, don't take it lightly. Anybody could stand anywhere and promise you anything. We've all gone through that in life before. It is very easy to say, well, boy, if you put me there, I'll give you this, I'll give you that, I'll give you this, I'll give you that. It's easy to turn up by Foster, easy to turn up by Faris in San Fernando West, and to turn up in some of the other constituencies with bags of money. But ask yourself the first question, where that money come from? Because you see, the conversation I want to have with you tonight is a topic that we have to confront frontally. And that conversation is the topic of crime. Because there is not a sensible citizen in Trinidad and Tobago that does not concern himself or herself about crime. But before I do that, before 7 o'clock this morning, the cabinet and myself were engaged. Because one of the first things I check every morning is what's the price of oil. And it's not the price of oil in Trinidad, you know. It's not the price of oil in Barbados. It's not the price of oil in Jamaica. It's not even the price of oil in Venezuela. It is the global price of oil. And the reason I check that is because that directly affects how much money we could get to spend in Trinidad. And I am listening to those on the other side promise a bag of poisonous goodies, telling the public servants we will give you $7 billion in back pay and we will increase salaries by $1 billion. So this morning, by 7 o'clock, I was sharing with the cabinet and getting their response. Today, we are facing a barrel of oil at $63 US. 63. And if you don't understand what that means, the budget had a barrel of oil at over 75 US dollars a barrel. So if now you're only getting $63, you've already lost 12 US dollars a barrel of oil. That may not make sense to many of us, but I know every sensible person will understand immediately that means you're earning less money. So when you have people come in telling you, I will give you this and I will give you that and I will increase this and increase that, I have heard it asked several times of the leader of the opposition, of someone who is dreaming of being the Minister of Finance, Tanku, another one who wants to be the Minister of Energy, David Lee. And I saw up to this week, up to yesterday, them being asked, where will the money come from? And they cannot give an answer. You saw the leader of the opposition stumbling in her words as well, because they don't have an answer. So I tell you that here tonight. When you're making blah, 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 correct, that was the first answer, blah, blah, blah. Then she went to a town hall meeting, and when young people and other people were asking, I can't tell you that plan, we don't have time for the plan tonight. But you have seen how this government in the last 9.5 years has increased the revenue in difficult circumstances. You have heard me say that just a few of the negotiations that I did on behalf and with the support of my colleagues earned us $38 billion we wouldn't have gotten. That is real. That is not a promise of, I'll cut corruption. You will cut corruption. Listen to every word Foster Cummins told us tonight. He delivered it in a masterful way. But the message is, they have shown us before and again in the 2 iterations of the UNC that all they know is corruption. They took the budget from 40 billion to 60 billion. They had a Piarco airport in the first iteration that collapsed the government. 3 people left their government because of corruption. In the last one, the population voted out of office because of corruption. So I am asking the population, don't be fooled. They have no plan. It is the IMF and devaluation. That is what is going to happen. When they got caught with the plan, and we showed it's a written plan, all of a sudden they say, no, that's not the plan. And they will say that, but they cannot answer where the money coming from. That is a warning, a word to the wise. Crime. Crime disturbs every single one of us. Crime affects every single one of us. Crime is something that every businessman is concerned about. Every mother and father is concerned about. And you see, this government, we're not hiding from that. We're not running from it either. But I stand here tonight and I tell the citizens, after consultation with my colleagues, I could stand here tonight and tell you, I am not afraid to shake things up. I am not afraid to take things on frontally. And we as a government are going to take things on frontally. We as a government, in dealing with everything, will take on status quo where we need to. We as a government taking on everything. And you have seen, will be fearless. We have a good platform now. It is where do we write the next chapter and the new chapter. Allow me to share some personal testimony with you here tonight, because I think it's important you understand why we'll be able to deliver this. I have never been one to accept status quo. Status quo is you're just happy going along with how things are. People tell you, well, that's the way it is, leave it so. In Form 3 of secondary school, I was part of an organization, a scouting organization. And what happened is the leader who was in charge had to leave school. They were transferring him to another school. They were going to shut down the troop. But by then, in Form 3, after spending 2.5 years, I saw the benefit of it. Now, you know, in Form 3, you're still considered a junior. You're still considered, well, you are one of the little boys. And the school was going to shut it down, 6 Trinidad Sea Scouts. At that moment, I took the decision and I went to my friends and said, we can't allow this thing to shut down. We have to step up and take the responsibility and carry this forward. Initially, they told us, no, you can't, because students can't run this thing. Well, today, however many years later, I am happy to tell you that the decision we took there today, not accepting status quo, in that small way at that young age, 6 Trinidad Sea Scouts is a thriving scout organization in Trinidad and Tobago. The next one, when you're practicing law, Larry, welcome. Welcome again to a sensible crowd. You're welcome here. Larry Lala, Senior Counsel. And I'm looking around the room because in this PNM crowd, they must have more attorneys. When you're a young attorney practicing law, they tell you about precedent. They tell you this is the way you have to do things. You have to do it this way. You have to do it this way. It's always been done that way, especially when you're negotiating certain contracts. And the older ones tell you, well, this is how we do it. This is how it must be done. I remember when they first told me that. I said, but why? They stopped. They said, but why are you asking, but why? I said, well, I'm asking, you telling me that is the way it's always been done, that's the way it has to be done. Explain to me why it has to be done that way. Of course, no proper explanation. So again, me and myself, I said, well, me ain't doing it that way. This is the way we're going to do it. But it's never done that way. Okay, well, we're going to try that way. And I tell you that story as well because that is how this PNM government is operating now. Because we are in times that are unprecedented. So today, as we sat at the cabinet table and we shared the information we have, looking at how we're going to guide Trinidad and Tobago going forward, there is no playbook written for this. You look at Canada, you look at Mexico, you look at the European Union with all them people who are around for hundreds of years. None of them, none of the leaders have a straight line playbook. But this People's National Movement, under this team, will guide Trinidad and Tobago through it. And that is the guarantee I give you tonight. Because this team will not accept anyone telling us you have to do it that way if it don't make sense. And that is the first message tonight, that we will shake things up. That my team and I will shake things up to get it right for Trinidad and Tobago. The last example I'll give you of that before I dive into how we're going to grapple with crime is you saw it in the last 9.5 years. We have never in this country had a ministry dedicated to the development of our youth. We have now a Ministry of Youth Development and National Service under the dynamic leadership of Foster Cummings. We have a Ministry of Digital Transformation that is going to transform the public service with our plans. You heard from Minister Gopi Schoon talk about how we have grown areas and diversification. So don't listen to them that the PNM has no plan. You're living the plan. And what we are inviting you to now is to join with us on the 28th of April. Give us the mandate so we can write the next chapter and a new chapter and take us in a new direction. I am confident tonight that together we will write a new chapter for Trinidad and Tobago, and we will deliver Trinidad and Tobago as we did out of COVID. You give this PNM government the mandate, and we will deliver Trinidad and Tobago to greater heights and greater success. I promise you that. Foster promises that. Nian promises that. Richie promises that. And all of the team promise that. Crime. Ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, crime didn't end up here on our doorstep overnight. Crime didn't come here in the last 9.5 years. Crime didn't come in the last 15 years. You see around the whole world, crime is escalating. But that's not good enough for us. Because we are living in New York. We are living in other countries. We live in here. This is ours. So the first call I'm making to Trinidad and Tobago tonight for all law-abiding citizens is join with a government that is fearless in taking on the elements of crime. Because you see, our solution to crime is not to put forward an individual with a cloud hanging over their head as to an involvement in crime. And I'm going to give you some examples of what is happening right now in the campaign with the UNC that shows that is not going to solve crime. You cannot be part of a problem to be part of the solution. I left a meeting the other night. I can't remember which one it was. And I have a young supporter from Port of Spain, North St. Anne's West. Somebody who has, look him right there, Keon. Keon has been with the PNM forever. When I came in 2014, Keon has walked with me every single time I walk, wherever I am. Keon lives in East Port of Spain. So when I got home from the meeting the other night, constituents in Port of Spain, North St. Anne's West, started to send me a video. And that video got me really, really angry. Because that video was of a UNC paid supporter. Everybody in the constituency knows he is paid by the UNC. He now they're supporting some candidate they sell who turn up there in orange, some Philip something or the other. Keon walking home with his wife up Quarry Street in East Port of Spain. And this UNC representative, he is a UNC representative, paid by the UNC, takes out a video to put up on TikTok of him abusing Keon for Keon being dressed in PNM red and his PNM jersey and cussing him for PNM. And that is the behavior of the UNC. And people, if you're living with criminals like that and you're promoting criminal behavior, how could you tackle crime? The next video, and these are happening now, This is not in the past, this is happening now. This is part of their campaign. Sent to me the other night by concerned PNM people, a video of a young guy in a UNC yellow jersey, as Foster said, jaundice. And he there on the jersey talking on TikTok, or it was TikTok, saying that he buy 1,000 tie wraps and he going and look for PNM people and all, and cussing away at PNM people and how he going to use those tie wraps and tie up PNM people from voting in a UNC jersey paid by the UNC. We cannot sit here quietly in this country as right-thinking citizens, as law-abiding citizens, and see these things going on and say nothing about it. So I am standing here tonight telling the country, putting the country on alert that these tactics that they think are okay and are also going to add to it the element of race, because they are using black Trinidadians to try and sell this because they think we are stupid, as Foster said. And I am standing here tonight as the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, as the chairman of the PNM, as someone who is asking for your vote for this government to lead us forward, to tell Trinidad and Tobago, reject that. Because if you are using criminals, and those are just two examples. Everybody knows what is going on. Do not be fooled. This yellow is the code. It's a psychological thing to take us for fools. And it is a psychological thing. Look at who they're using to message. Why are they doing that? Trinidad and Tobago, I am not going to stand by quietly and see Cambridge Analytica 2.0 by the UNC once again taking place in this. I am calling it out here tonight. That is a promotion of crime and criminality. You cannot have people offering themselves up to serve in the cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago who the intelligence agencies around the world will not share information with. I heard somebody offering himself up as the next Minister of National Security, lying to the country and saying that we don't have technology. Our technology is from the 1800s and the 1900s. That is a lie. But let me tell you something. I began to think about it. I said, I wonder if it is that he can't be exposed to what we really have in this country because of his connections. I don't know, I'm asking for a friend. The next PNM government is going to fight and tackle crime frontally. Because there is no element in the 41 candidates putting themselves forward that have any connection to any criminal in Trinidad and Tobago. None of us have given out any contract to any alleged person who's a person of police interest to the police to build a police post in East Port of Spain. Don't forget these things. I served for a time as the Minister of National Security. I did. And I fought hard. We managed COVID, we fought hard. Let me share with you all some of what we're going to implement. We are going to implement. The first thing I said is we are going to reform the way we appoint a commissioner of police. The last time we did it, the first people to rush to court was the UNC. Well, I ain't afraid court. And now we have Larry who ain't afraid court either. And we have young, bright attorneys in the People's National Movement who ain't afraid court either. We are going to simplify the process. It is time in our writing of the next chapter, we break hold of those shackles and we find a way to implement a new appointment of a commissioner of police that is a simpler process, that finds the best fit, not necessarily rising through the ranks, but if you are the best person for the job, you get the job. We need the thinking, we need the strategy. To successfully fight crime, you literally need a special squad. And not a special squad spread all over, you know. To fight crime, you need an elite squad. A squad of people with the best training, what I call the elite squad. A squad of people who on a consistent basis are subject to polygraph and for testing as to integrity. You need a squad of people that they know when they join that squad, they are the best of the best. And that anytime they get intelligence, so they're told a crime going to happen here, a drug deal going to happen there, a gang going to operate there, not one of them in that squad, that elite unit, is going to pick up their phone and call or warn anybody. They're going and get the criminals. This elite squad will be put under the strategic leadership of the police, the right person in the police. And it will have the assistance of the right officers from the Defense Force. And we will give that squad the best tactical training available in the world. Because you see, by definition, when people think there's an elite squad and is the best of the best, immediately those who want to be the best and know that they have to be clean and have integrity, going to want to join that squad. So it will not want for recruits and it will not want for personnel. That squad is not going to do what the normal police do. And because the normal police are playing an important role. Patrols, being seen, going to crime scenes, intervening. But this elite squad, and let me tell you something, it worked because I had done this under national security. They get the intelligence tonight from the equipment that is existing, and they know right. They have a drug shipment coming in on the southwestern peninsula tonight. Quietly, efficiently, they're there. As they come, boop, you hit them hard. This squad will have the best equipment. This squad will have the best tools, and it will be backed up by the best intelligence. We are going to expand undercover and covert operations because it's time that we use that more. And one thing has been lacking in the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. To make that a success, we are going to address that. There is no law in Trinidad and Tobago that allows undercover and covert officers to do their work without fear of prosecution. That come in too, to allow them to do their job. This elite squad is going to have state-of-the-art equipment, rapid response capabilities, and they're going to do it in a manner that they actually put the fear back into the criminals. Because you see, there's an element of fear that has been lost by the criminals. This squad will be dressed differently. They will look differently. They will have the best equipment and the best ability to do their job. And as it grows, I guarantee Trinidad and Tobago, the effect of that is going to be a positive one across the rest of the police service. In all of this, we recognize that unfortunately, one of the things the society is facing is gender-based domestic violence. There was started a unit called the Gender-Based Domestic Violence, the Gender-Based Violence Unit. We're also going to put more resources in there because you have to move with the times. You have to understand that a person who has suffered abuse has to go to someone who is trained, someone who knows when you come to them to say what you've gone on. Doesn't say, well, go and sit down there. I go take the report just now, and that type of thing. And you see, these are the things that the next PNM government does, because they show, not only show, but it means that we care. You don't need somebody on a platform saying, I care for you, I love you, I will throw baby milk at you. Who are we? That is not how you treat people, but it shows the mentality of how Kamla thinks. So tonight, I am telling you, we're also going to give more resources to that unit. The technology, we have already started upgrading the technology, but I can't give you the nitty-gritty of the type of technology, because that will be giving away what we don't need to know about. Another thing we're going to do is we're then going to have rapid response joint task force. Not only the elite squad, and let me tell you how it's going to operate. Right now we have something called the National Operations Fusion Center, where you have police, you have defense force, you have the Coast Guard, you have the regiment, you have prisons, you have health personnel, you have everybody there. So if something comes in, all of them could fire. They know who to contact in their organizations. We had to ramp that up because times have changed. It can't be business as usual. We have to move ahead of what is coming at us. So we're going to have a National Joint Operations Command where we'll integrate the police, the defense force, customs, immigration, intelligence services for coordinated response to high-priority security threats such as organized crime, human trafficking, illegal firearms, narcotics smuggling. And we're going to deploy these special tactical units trained for swift response as well. So it's not going to be the excuse of, well, I don't have somebody here. When the call goes in to the National Operation Fusion Center, they will determine what is the type of response, but they will have the ability to call out these swift response teams to get to where they need to get to tackle the crime. I've already started the conversations with the regional leaders about us strengthening the regional intelligence and security. Now this one, and I'm going to need the support. We are going to need the support of the population for this next wave of how we propose to deal with crime. Because it's going to require legislative amendments, it's going to require new law. But when you hear what it is, I think you will immediately understand the effects it will have on the fight against crime. We need greater accountability for the law enforcement leadership. We need laws that when you get all of these resources, you're more accountable to the population. Once you're doing what is right, you're fine. We want higher penalties for law enforcement infringements. Because too often we're hearing about extortion. So the law needs to move with that as well. But we also for police or defense force, for prison service, for fire, and for private security guards. We're going to enhance legal protection for them. In other words, you attack any one of those officers, including private security guards, you're going to have the full force of the law come down at you. Because you see, many of our citizens perform that thankless task of being private security. And they shouldn't be subject to abuse. They shouldn't be subject to attacks. So we are going to make law that if you do that, you now will be prosecuted and you will face the penalties. Legal immunity, as I told you, for undercover officers, to allow them to get in there, do their work, gather the evidence, and bring successful cases without fear of, if they're involved in criminal activity, they too could be subject to prosecution. And we already have the draft guidelines as to how we're going to get that done. I heard a conversation that's taken place from those on the other side about giving out guns. I want to talk to you all a little bit about this giving out guns. First of all, no government can't give out guns, all right? So don't let anybody thief your head about giving out guns. But we recognize that the legal firearm system needs to be addressed. We recognize that that is an area that law-abiding citizens have concern about. I give the undertaking here tonight in a responsible manner that the next PNM government will look at that and do it in a responsible manner. Not giving out guns to everybody, but looking at how the system can be properly addressed. We're going to expand community policing to make sure that dedicated community policing units, including our municipal police. We're going to, as you heard Minister Cummings say, his ministry plays a critical role in not letting people be attracted to crime. We were sitting there just now, as we've been discussing in the last few weeks, and as you heard him announce, we are going to expand the programs Foster has to capture young people and to give them hope and to bring them into law-abiding means of earning a living as opposed to being attracted to criminal life. So we're going to have targeted youth intervention and gang prevention programs. One of the concerns that we have as citizens is we buy vehicles, we buy all sorts of things, boats for the Coast Guard, and within a matter of time, they're destroyed, they're not maintained, they're no longer in use, and you have to keep buying. We're going to use technology in all of those vehicles and assets so that at any point in time, we know where the police are, we know where the vehicles are, the boats are, and we're going to make sure, as we all do with our own vehicles. You know your car has to go into service in 3 months. You make arrangements, it goes into service. That has to be introduced, and we're going to have that type of technology. Electric monitoring. We are going to put more resources in electric monitoring because we recognize some people who commit heinous acts of domestic violence, etc., they should have an ankle bracelet on. And we, as the law authority, should know that if they're going anywhere in the zone, so it's not only a protection order, we want to make sure that if they're doing something they're not supposed to be doing, those tactical units could swoop in and deal with them. Those are some of the initiatives that are going to be introduced to address crime by the next PNM government. It is not an easy topic. It is not easy to tackle. But I hope tonight what you have gotten in a sober conversation and a well thought out conversation is you understand that these are realistic, pragmatic matters that can be implemented. This is not somebody standing up and saying, I'm going to stop crime, I'm going to do this, and when you ask them how, they can't provide an answer. And that, blah, 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 correct. And that, citizens, brothers and sisters, is part of the conversation as to how a responsible PNM government is going to tackle crime. Not an easy topic, but I am giving you the assurance here tonight. You have a group of fighters who are not prepared to accept status quo. You have a dedicated team that is ready to get the mandate from you. And ready, just as we will fight in other areas, we are going to work with the police, we're going to work with the defense force, we're going to set up the elite unit, and I give you the assurance here tonight, we are not going to work with the criminals, we're going to work against the criminals and fight crime and criminality in Trinidad and Tobago on your behalf. We promise you the energy. We promise you the strategic leadership. We promise you the will. We promise you the new chapter, a new direction as we tackle crime. But what I'm asking for tonight is join us. Join us to fight crime together, because we're going to need your support. When we go to Parliament and we say, this is what needed, and them on the other side, because they're still going to be in opposition, they on the other side prevent it. You, the citizens, must stand up and tell them, no, we want that. So brothers and sisters, tonight was a conversation in a sober and sane manner, but a conversation that should give us all food for thought and should set out for the population why the People's National Movement is the choice to tackle crime and criminality in the next rounds. So tonight, as I end, I am asking you all to join us as we move in a new direction, as we take this country forward in a responsible manner. But as we give you the assurance, we will continue to fight, and I will fight. And I will fight and fight and fight for Trinidad and Tobago and our children and a future of Trinidad and Tobago. And we will take on the fight against the criminals. And on the 28th of April, here in Chaguanas East, in St. Augustine, in Orapooch, right here in Caroni, in Claxton Bay, across the whole of Trinidad and Tobago, La Joqueta, Talparo, Port of Spain, San Fernando, or 2 seats in Tobago. I am asking Trinidad and Tobago on the 28th of April, put your X next to the Balize for the People's National Movement and join us as we fight for Trinidad and Tobago, and as we say, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and we shall prevail.
This is a movement we all in together, not just so one, my sister, my brother.
This is a new chapter. Join us on the road to victory. On Friday, April 11th, San Juan, meet us at the Quasi. We're red, ready, and responsible. Vote PNM. Great is the PNM.